everyone. Welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm your host, Lily, and before we jump into things today, please make sure to like, share, and comment on the video.
And definitely hit that subscribe button if you haven't already.
Yes, please do. So I'm joined by my co-host and resident expert, Ryan, and today our mission is, well, we're unpacking the secret to speaking English like a native.
Right, which is such a huge topic. We're looking at a comprehensive breakdown of everyday communication today, looking at sources that group words by daily contexts. So things like work, daily chat, home, tech, emotions, and shopping.
Exactly. And, when you dig into this material, what becomes immediately obvious is that true fluency isn't actually about memorizing massive, complex academic vocabulary.
Oh, totally. People think they need these huge dictionary words.
Right. But those big words are just like the big, showy bricks of a house. Fluency is actually about mastering the mortar, those small, almost invisible, everyday filler words that hold the whole conversation together.
It's a really compelling way to look at it because learners usually obsess over the heavy lifting nouns and verbs. They'll spend hours figuring out how to pronounce infrastructure or analyze.
Yeah, but native speakers spend, the vast majority of their day just relying on these tiny functional connectors.
Exactly. Understanding the psychology of how to wield those little words, that's what separates sounding like a textbook from sounding like a real human being. You need them to negotiate complex social dynamics.
So let's test that theory right away. Imagine you're sitting in a high-stakes boardroom meeting, right?
Okay, setting the scene.
You need to tell the CEO that their multi-million-dollar strategy is going to completely fail. Do you look them in the eye and simply say, no, this is a disaster?
I mean, if you want to keep your job, you probably don't do that.
Right. You reach into your linguistic toolkit for a tiny, seemingly meaningless word to soften the blow. You say something like, this will probably cause some delays.
Yeah, that one little word changes the entire temperature of the room. The workplace is it's a fascinating pressure cooker.
Oh, for sure. You have to convey accurate information while simultaneously managing fragile egos.
That's the hardest part. And our source material highlights words specifically for this, like actually, probably, and kind of, or sort of.
Now wait, let me push back on that for a second. A strict grammarian might argue that saying, I'm kind of tired, or I'll probably finish this later, is just lazy filler.
Mm-hmm.
Are people simply avoiding commitment here? Or do these words, do they serve a vital diplomatic function?
They serve a massive diplomatic purpose. In human communication, directness is very often interpreted as aggression.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I can see that.
Right. If a colleague assumes you're free to take on a new project and you respond with, I am busy right now, it sounds like a door slamming shut.
It's blunt force trauma to the conversation.
Exactly. But if you insert actually, so you say, actually, I'm busy right now, you completely alter the power dynamic.
It's like you're signaling that the reality of the situation simply differs from their expectation.
Yes. It's a way of saving face for both parties. You aren't rejecting them. Reality is just getting in the way.
Does the direction of that communication matter? Saying actually to a boss versus an intern.
Oh, context is everything. Using actually to a superior is a classic method of gentle correction. It lets you correct them without undermining their authority.
So it acts as a conversational shock absorber.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Similarly, phrases like kind of or sort of act as diplomatic shields.
Give me an example of that.
So if you tell your manager, this new strategy is kind of missing the mark, you're communicating the exact same warning as this is a disaster, but you're leaving space for discussion.
Right. You avoid backing anyone into a corner.
Exactly. But that covers the diplomatic side of the office. There's an entirely different vocabulary set for projecting competence.
You're talking about words like deal with and schedule, right?
Yep. When someone says they have to deal with customer complaints, it feels distinctly different than saying they have to read customer complaints.
Yeah, deal with implies proactive authority. It projects this image of management and control over a chaotic situation.
Right. You aren't just observing a problem, you're actively neutralizing it.
And schedule, of course, is the ultimate anchor of professional boundaries.
Oh, for sure. Let me check my schedule. Functions as a universally respected pause button.
It's brilliant because it removes the personal element from a refusal. It's not that I don't want to help you, it's that the schedule simply will not allow it.
Exactly. So if the workplace is all about managing tasks and softening blows, casual daily interaction requires a totally different skill set.
Yeah. Everyday chat is all about managing the architecture of the conversation itself. We spend so much time steering conversations, and that requires very specific transitional cues.
You have a really good analogy for this, don't you?
I do. I've always thought of conversational steering like driving a car. A phrase like, guess what, is turning the ignition.
I love that.
It demands active participation from the listener. They literally have to say, what? Before you even share the exciting news, like getting a new job. It forces them into the passenger seat.
The car analogy works really well, but the mechanics of human memory make it a bit more complex than just a straight highway.
Okay, how so?
Take a phrase like, by the way, you're talking about a movie, and suddenly the speaker says, by the way, did you see my message? We don't think in perfectly straight lines. Memory retrieval is totally spontaneous.
Right, so by the way, isn't just taking a random scenic detour, it's honoring those spontaneous brain connections without completely derailing the original topic.
Exactly. It's a socially acceptable permission slip to jump tracks.
Right.
It acknowledges to the listener, hey, I know this is slightly off topic, but it just occurred to me and it's relevant.
And when you need to get back on track, or if the side conversation has simply run its course, you deploy anyway. Anyway, let's move on.
Anyway, it's fascinating. It feels like the universal rescue flare of a dying conversation.
Yes. If you're stuck in a loop on a phone call saying, anyway, I should let you go, instantly sets a boundary without causing offense.
It acts as an auditory punctuation mark. It signals a hard reset. What's really intriguing is how often people use it to rescue themselves from their own rambling.
Oh, I do that all the time.
Right. You might be telling a story, realize you've gone way too far into the weeds, and just say, anyway, the point is, it functions as a cognitive reset button.
Speaking of cognitive reset buttons, we have to talk about it is the ultimate real-time mental editing tool.
Oh, absolutely.
You say something a bit too harsh, like, that movie was terrible. Then you read the room, realize someone else liked it, and instantly append, it wasn't my favorite.
Introduces vulnerability into speech. It shows the listener your thought process in real time.
It's like you're admitting that your first draft of the sentence was flawed and you're offering a second, more nuanced draft.
Yeah, and that demonstrates a very high level of conversational self-awareness, which naturally builds trust with the person you are speaking to.
So, all of this steering and editing happens in the spaces we inhabit. And analyzing how we talk about our immediate surroundings reveals a lot about modern life.
It really does. Our sources dive into the core vocabulary of the home next, highlighting words like leftovers, messy, and fix.
Now, we obviously don't need to define these for our audience. Everyone listening knows what a leftover is or what it means to fix a sink.
Right.
But what strikes me is how these words don't just describe static objects. They represent this perpetual, endless cycle of domestic entropy.
It's the linguistic representation of maintaining existence. You make a messy room, you clean the mess.
Something breaks, you fix it. You cook, you eat leftovers, you cook again.
Exactly. These words capture the inescapable loop of daily labor at home.
But the physical home is only half of our environment now. The other half is completely digital.
And this is where the linguistic evolution gets genuinely strange, if you think about it.
Yes. We use words like log in, log out, scroll, upload, and download. 30 years ago, these were highly technical jargon words used by computer scientists in sterile laboratories.
Yeah, uploading data packets and logging in with credentials.
Today, they are as domestic and mundane as doing the dishes or eating leftovers. It's fascinating how that evolution happened.
Well, language stretches and adapts to domesticate new realities. When the digital world first emerged, it was totally alien.
We didn't have words for it yet.
Exactly. We had to hijack physical world concepts to make sense of it. Think about the word scroll. We took the physical action of unrolling an ancient papyrus document
and mapped it onto moving pixels up and down on a glass screen.
Yes. We took the concept of uploading freight onto a physical ship and applied it to sending files to the internet.
So we essentially decorated this cold, sterile digital space with familiar physical world furniture so our brains could comfortably live there.
That is the perfect way to visualize it. We needed the digital world to feel like a living room, not a laboratory.
And now the boundaries between the two have completely dissolved. You fix a physical sink, but you also fix a broken computer.
Right. The effort required is categorized exactly the same way in our minds.
So what happens when that physical or digital environment pushes back? When the sink won't get fixed or the app won't log in?
Well, it triggers an internal response. It triggers our emotions.
Right. And learners often struggle to articulate these specific emotional reactions precisely. The sources point out three key emotional states: being annoyed, being frustrated, and being excited.
The distinction between annoyance and frustration is a really big one here.
I've always felt like annoyance is a tiny external irritant, like a buzzing mosquito in the room.
Okay, yeah.
But frustration feels entirely different. Frustration is facing a locked door you desperately need to get through. Is that how linguists view the distinction?
Linguistically, you are hitting on the exact difference between an environmental nuisance and a thwarted goal.
Oh, that makes sense.
Annoyance is passive. Someone is playing loud music next door. It's bothering you, sure, but it doesn't necessarily stop you from existing or doing your thing.
Right. It's just a mild negative feeling.
But frustration, however, is active. It implies you have a specific objective, like opening a stuck jar or finishing a report on a slow internet connection, and a barrier has been placed in your way.
So frustration is the emotional friction of being stuck.
Exactly. You don't get frustrated by a mosquito, you get annoyed. You don't get annoyed by a locked door you need to pass through, you get frustrated.
The precision there is what really matters. When a native speaker uses the correct word, they're instantly calibrating the exact flavor of their distress for the listener.
It dictates the social response. If you tell a friend you are annoyed by your computer, they might shrug it off.
But if you say you are frustrated, they understand that your progress is actively blocked and they are much more likely to offer help.
Exactly. Now, on the flip side of that emotional spectrum, we have excited.
Which seems straightforward enough, right? It's a positive energy. But there is a distinct timeline to it, isn't there?
Yes, excitement is almost exclusively forward-looking. It is anticipatory energy. It functions as the psychological counterbalance to frustration.
How so?
Well, if frustration is being blocked from the future you want, excitement is feeling happy and enthusiastic about the future you are rapidly moving toward.
I love that. So we take all these tools, the diplomatic shields, the emotional precision, the conversational steering wheels, and we eventually have to take them out into the public sphere.
Right, running errands, shopping, navigating city life.
And this is where the cognitive dissonance of English really rears its head, particularly with phrasal verbs. Take a phrase like check out.
Now, checkout is a classic trap for learners.
Our sources note that it has dual meanings entirely dependent on the context of where you are.
It really demands spatial awareness from the listener. The words themselves don't actually carry the full meaning.
Wait, really? The words don't carry the meaning?
Not fully. The physical geography of where the speaker is standing carries the other half of the meaning.
Right. If we are walking down the sidewalk and I point at a window display and say, check out that store, it is an invitation to look at something interesting.
Exactly.
But if we are standing inside that exact same store holding a basket of groceries and I ask, where do I check out? It has instantly transformed into the act of paying at the register.
The words didn't change at all. Your coordinates changed.
This is exactly why I wrote memorization of vocabulary lists often fails learners.
You can't learn the difference between observing an object and paying for groceries from a static flashcard. You have to visualize the three-dimensional space. The grammar is inextricably linked to the environment.
That same context dependency happens when things disappear entirely. Take a phrase like we ran out of milk, or we ran out of gas.
It's such a common household reality.
But it implies a very specific journey, doesn't it?
It does. It describes an end state of consumption. You didn't lose the milk, and you didn't forget the milk. You slowly consumed it over time until the state of depletion was finally reached.
So there is none left. It's a process word that masquerades as an event.
And in a social context, declaring that you have run out of something is almost always an indirect prompt for an action.
Let me guess, someone needing to go to the store.
You got it.
And when you finally get to the store to replace that milk, you might encounter our final phrase, take a look.
Take a look.
A salesperson might say, take a look at our new products. It's incredibly similar to check out in the observational sense, but the psychological weight feels totally different.
Because it lowers the stakes of the interaction. If a salesperson approaches you and says, buy our new products or even review our new products, your defenses immediately go up.
Oh, absolutely. It feels like a demand.
But take a look is framed as a brief, non-committal invitation. It softens the commercial nature of the interaction, much in the same way actually softens a correction in the boardroom.
Wow. It really all comes full circle, doesn't it?
It really does.
Whether you are managing the CEO's expectations, steering a rambling phone call with a friend, navigating the endless loop of a messy house, or dodging a salesperson at the store.
Every single one of these words is a highly specialized tool for managing social friction.
They are the invisible shock absorbers of human interaction.
And when you stop looking at these words as lazy filler and start recognizing them as deliberate psychological tools, the entire language just opens up.
So if you take away just one thing from this deep dive today, let it be this. Sounding fluent isn't about wielding the biggest, most impressive vocabulary.
No, not at all.
You don't need a $100 word when a 10-cent phrase like "I mean" or "kind of" does the heavy lifting of keeping a relationship intact.
It's about knowing when to soften a blow, how to pivot a memory, and how to perfectly articulate the difference between an annoyance and a barrier.
Once you see the mortar, you truly understand how the house is built. It changes the way you process every conversation around you.
Absolutely. It reframes everything.
Speaking of changing how you process conversations, I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. We've spent all this time analyzing the hidden mechanics of English, right? But think about your own native language. What are the tiny, almost invisible filler words you use every single day?
That's a great question.
The little sounds or phrases you deploy to soften a sentence, politely escape a conversation, or express a minor frustration. Once you identify the diplomatic shields and steering wheels hidden in your own mother tongue, it completely shatters the illusion that language is just about exchanging facts.
It's about managing each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Keep listening for the spaces between the bricks. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.